For those who don't know me yet, let me just give that quick intro here. Alex Powers, part of the Power BI customer advisory team located in St. Louis, Missouri. So this is my Wednesday night time to kick back and hang out with some users. So I'm absolutely in heaven right now. My background is through Excel, so I'm an Office 365 user at heart. I found Power BI Desktop because it was free. That was that kind of the a little bit of candy there that kind of gets you led into all the cool business intelligence stuff, which eventually opens the door to Azure. I don't know what's after Azure, the metaverse. Apparently, I need to buy NFTs and have a digital avatar or something. I don't know. I'll figure it out when I get there. But I'm not all technology. I do have a life, hopefully outside of work at times. A lot of that revolves around just cats, professional wrestling, and of course, data. So those are my big three interests. I absolutely love and was raised on Nintendo NES, so I love the complexity of simplicity. Having an A, B, and a select start button, that's all you get. So go out and, have fun, let their imagination run wild. And hopefully that's what I also bring here, just in terms of my approach to some of these technologies, is at a core level, like how can we do some amazing things? And then always just pineapple on pizza. You can boo me, you can throw puke emojis. I don't really care. It's who I am. I'm just being honest with everyone. But at the end of the day, I'm no different than anyone here. I'm learning. I'm putting in the nights and the weekends and buying the books, because I did hear some feature fatigue just when people were showing up today, like, oh my gosh, there's so much new stuff to learn. Pace yourselves. Like, this is my professional advice to you. Trust the foundations and the fundamentals, because those will always take you far. Just in your journey, you're learning. The new, cool, shiny stuff it'll always be there tomorrow. So if you're feeling it, I'm feeling it too. But that's just, pace yourselves. That would be my advice there. But with that, let's talk about Power Query, because love is in the air, and I am just in love here with everything that Power Query can do. And of course, with that, I just want to Power Query everything. All right. So what does this even mean? Like, you're always tweeting about it over on Twitter. I'm seeing it all the time in LinkedIn too. All right. So for me, Power Query everything. Of course, I hear the guidance as far upstream as possible. As far downstream as necessary. I'm selfish. I like Power Query. I want to do as much as I can within Power Query, but I also understand that there are some better tools at times that may be, more performant. When I talk about web scraping tonight, I'll give you my honest assessments too. There are some things that I do in the actual real world with web scraping that could probably be, minutes using Python and Beautiful Soup 4, as opposed to Power Query, where maybe I'm like 30 or 40 minutes. That's fine to me. I'm running it while I'm asleep in the middle of the night. But if you're looking at doing something large scale, this would be my advice. Just consider it as a POC, kind of that proof of concept, where Power Query just does a fantastic job of getting data onto that grid as quickly as possible. So with that, once again, I'm selfish. I do want to Power Query everything. So that's why we're talking about it tonight here, because I know it's a Friday night. You and your friends are hanging out, talking about enterprise-grade commercial software at a party. And of course, this is that technology that I would love for you to recommend to your friends. Power Query everything. So with that, the legal parts. So is web scraping legal? Well, that's a great question, and one that I would not be the best to answer it for you. So speak to a lawyer. Please seek legal assistance if you're in doubt about your own projects, but start with these very basic kind of questions. What is the type of data that you are scraping? How you plan to use the scraped data? Then, of course, how you extract it from the website. So read through the terms of service. If it is personal data, like identifiable. I'm trying to think of the PII, or personally identifiable information. There we go. So if you are looking to do that type of scraping, obviously the terms of service for that provider. If you're trying to resell somebody else's information, read through the terms of service. This is just my guidance to you. But once again, I'm not your lawyer. So, if you are in that project or that world, speak to someone. But it depends. There are legal cases out there all the time that says it is legal. So with that, let's dive right in. I hang out so many hours over on Reddit. I absolutely love it here, hanging out with the community. Of course, within this, there's all this data, all this information. I want to start applying some AI, maybe some like cognitive services, understand, are people happy? Do they love our product? Do they hate it? Is it thumbs up, thumbs down? Like, this is great. Come out here at any point in time, there's a negative Nancy comment. Like, what is this? If you're doing those type of projects, don't feel like you need to reinvent the wheel. Check websites. And I'll kind of show you something here at the very top. Our Power BI at the very end add a .json. It will now return a JSON payload here for Reddit. Very similar if you'd like to do something with XML. XML. It'll return an XML payload. Check websites, check if they have RSS feeds. A lot of this information you could easily grab without doing a single amount of work. Like, how awesome would that be? Where you can just come out here, take this web address, and I'll jump over to the desktop. And let's do a new query. Let's do more. We'll grab XML here real quick. Awesome, XML. Paste in this web address. Just like that. Here's the XML response. I can keep going into the details. Here, let me dial back a little bit. Links, entries, there we go. Here's all of that text. So if you're having to do a quick demo, you're not really sure where to go get some meaningful sentences, just go out to Reddit, add a .json at the end of a sub. Of course, I also love hanging out on the cat sub. So if you want to stare at photos of cats all day, cats.xml, it does the exact same thing. I'll pause here. Has anyone done this yet? Maybe some of the Reddit data. Greg, what's the chat thinking here?
Chat has not asked any questions. We've got some comments. Does anybody, Tara, do you want to go off mute and maybe talk 2 cents about how it's been working with Reddit?
Yeah, I've been pulling the Reddit data, kind of just like playing around with the concept of a template app that uses Reddit data for, you know, kind of social media marketing kind of.
Get away from the default.
It's really intense. You get a ton of stuff out of it. So I had a lot of fun going through.
So
first time, okay.
And I know Power Query, at least I think through online, it'll do like a lot of the flattening for you. But there is just so much information to kind of go through out here. So one thing we didn't have to do any web scraping on, it's already built into the website. So I would encourage everyone check for RSS feeds, because Microsoft Docs, we even have our own RSS feeds where you can get all this information without having to write a single line of code. Like, that is the best experience. But for tonight, obviously, we're celebrating Valentine's Day here within the Portland, Oregon user group. So it's all about pizza for me. So let's go ahead and do a web search here using Yelp. Life of Pi Pizza. They're saying that's the best. Is that true? Are they #1 in the area?
It's pretty good.
Is it?
I don't know if I would say #1. You know, I think a Pizza Shoals and Baby Doll is up there.
Yeah, my vote is for a pizza.
Baby Doll for sure paid. They for sure paid for that ad spot.
Yeah. Well, I love that people are already up in arms here about some of the Yelp reviews. So let me just grab this page here now. It will jump back over into our Power Query desktop experience. So kind of zoom us in, new query from a web. There we go. So we talked about not having to rebuild or reinvent the wheel. And this is one of my favorite things, at least here, is kind of the tables from example. See that here in just one moment, connecting. And we'll dive into the deep end here. You know it's coming. Awesome. So we've got table views, which it'll read through all the HTML on the page, hopefully find some table objects. It has that web view, so it's just loading that page in the background here now. So Life of Pi Pizza, Pizza Shoals. But it has this awesome button here at the very bottom left. So add a table using examples. So I'll go ahead and click on this now. If you maybe have a web page, and I'll zoom in here a little bit. Awesome. So it'll load the web page, and then you can just supply the results. So #1 here I'll do, of course, is our restaurant. And number 1 is going to be life of Pi Pizza. It's already recognized it here. Right, no CSS selector was found. So if you don't have the kind of background with HTML, that is a cascading style sheet. So just with the first sample, it's not able to do anything. So let me try and add another one here to a pizza Shoals. Fingers crossed. It's still not working. So there's something on this page, but Power Query says I might have found a solution for you if you're willing to move some of your sample values. Of course, let's go ahead and move. Awesome. So at the very top here, they've just got some leftover code somewhere in the web page. Pizzeria Sol Lego, kind of moving my results down a little bit. So I've now got 1, 2, 3, 4, well, apparently missing 4. So I can supply that here. 4 Paladin Pizza. So there we go, Baby Doll Pizza. It's figured it out. Next up, there's more information here. This rating number, so 799. So I'll do ratings. So we've had 799 people rate Life of Pi Pizza 1649. All right, it's picking up the pattern again here for me. Just using a little bit of intelligence. Number 4, Paladin, still having issues. So I'll type in 14 to give it some help there. Cool. Oh, there's a lot here that I would like to grab on this page. I could keep doing this exercise, and obviously Power Query will help me through it here as much as it can. So let me go and hit OK, and then I'll come back out here to look at some of these other tables. So in this one, I provided some values. In the other ones, Power Query itself was able to go out there and find them and say, I think this is what you're looking for here. So table 1 has the pizza restaurant name, Papa John's Pizza. That's definitely not it for the title. Table 2 has the comments, the open hours, outdoor dining, delivery. Table 3 has a little bit more here too with delivery, takeout options. 4, 5, 6. You can kind of see where I'm going here. There's just a lot. So let me click on a few of these. I'm going to load these into. All right. So still the same process of me typing in values. Power Query is going out and extracting them. And then we'll jump into the advanced editor here now. And then if you're not already using the Power Query extension, I'd highly recommend it. The language here that we're going to use is Power Query formula language, quick format document. Cool. Web.Browser.Contents. It's the HTTPS address we use in our browser. It goes through the HTML and extracts values. So HTML.table. Column 1, column 2, column 3. It's going out and looking at these CSS selectors. So let's go ahead and copy this here now. And we'll find this within our browser. Let me jump on this one. Awesome. So here's our CSS selector class. Obviously, the name of the location in Life of Pi Pizzeria or Life of Pi Pizza. There is an href, so that's a hyperlink reference. Unfortunately, Power Query was not able to find that here within our document. All of this other information like these stars, pizza, salad, money, Mississippi neighborhood, some of this was able to be detected while other points were not. I have multiple tables. I can come out here and we can move some things around just because this is a very flexible language. So I'll paste this here now. And we'll keep working towards it. So table number 2, I have this column number 2, which is our comments. So I'll come back over here, paste this. Column number 2, these are all of our comments that I would like to add to that other kind of query. Do it here at the very end. Column number 2 is already existing. So it needs to be comments here at the bottom. Awesome. Really another step here. Very end, I've now brought the comments into this primary and first table. So once again, this is another exercise where we could just spend the entire night going through CSS selectors, finding the proper ones spanned across 5 different tables using this web.browser contents and leveraging AI. We could do that all night, but I think you can see where this is going. I like this, but I think that we could control our own destiny, doing a little bit more, I wouldn't say advanced things, but we'll talk through it together. So in this example, let me pause here, web.browser contents. Is anyone familiar with that function? And then obviously some of the limitations that come with it. Pause here on that one. All right, nothing yet. So it relies on CSS selectors, web.browser contents. It goes through, it finds things, parts that I don't like. Web.browser contents uses an on-premises data gateway. I'm doing a web connection. Why do I need to use an on-premises data gateway? If I was to jump out into kind of the Power BI workspace experience, go into settings, gateway connection. Now we need to have a gateway up and running to connect out to an anonymous web source. So not a big fan right there, right off the bat. Data refresh here, so refreshing a dynamic data source like a web page, and then obviously the address too. What we're going to spend a lot of time here concentrating on is the web.contents function. So we now have 2 different ones here. So web.browser contents, you're committing this to memory. That is the default option and selection whenever you create a Power BI web connection. Right here, right off the bat. So this is a little bit of editing here now within that advanced editor. But what we can then do is we can start really leveraging some awesome optional inputs here with the web.contents. So we can talk about the query and adding query parameters to the end of our URL. So of course, right now we're looking at pizza, but tomorrow it could be sandwiches up in Portland. Maybe it's a nice wine bar to unwind, or whatever it is for the after hours. We could do post requests if we did need to kind of submit a key, API values if we had to do passing in like a next page, kind of a GUID. Like that is all possible with web.contents. You can see tomorrow kind of at the browser contents. I'm trying to tell you, it's the default. Check your M code as much as you can because it could be holding you back in some experiences. So let me pause here. Web.browser contents. Was anyone aware of this kind of difference in the 2 different functions? Is this the first time you're learning about it? I'll pause here.
Comments? People are definitely active in the chat.
Get away from the defaults. Love it. All right. So
First time. Okay. First
it's
time.
awesome then. We're all going on this journey together then. So exact same things. I'm going to do just a new query. We'll do blank query. And then here we'll do web.contents. I'll zoom in here. Here we go. So nothing really different. Web.contents as opposed to web.browser contents. Press done. And my goodness, that is beautiful. I love seeing that response somewhere first. So the file of the Yelp website. So it's just the HTML, .html file extension. What we can do then is extract it, text.from binary file. So text.from binary. And I'll zoom in here as well. Press enter. We're there. We've solved the internet. We've scraped everything on this web page. Here's all the text. We are done. This is it. We're done. All right, Alex, your enthusiasm is getting the best of you here. So let's check it out in VS Code. Like, why am I so excited here? Let's format this. Yes. Prettier. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder why it went into a dark mode here for me. And should be HTML. There we go. Much longer. Cool. So here's the complete page, all the text on that Yelp website. So one of the things I'd probably want to look back on is that Life of Pi Pizza. I remember that title. People are a little bit hesitant on calling that one the best, but Life of Pi Pizza. All right, so Life of Pi Pizza here. I've got the CSS selectors. I think I could still do a little bit better here. Oh, what is this? What is this? Cal Biz ID. I'm just finding it here on the page for us. Feels like it's wrapped a little bit too long. All right, let me try CSS. To be a little bit better. All right, well, trust me, it's in there. What we're gonna do is grab the actual JSON payload response. So within this entire thing is all this great information about this web page that's been returned by the application. So what we would like to do then is start extracting this out. I have text here within Power BI, so I need to find text that is between these delimiters. So text dot between delimiter, the open close parentheses, it will return the starting. So what is my starting delimiter? It's going to be biz ID. And then I'm going to kind of also say my end is a biz ID. My start index, so the first position within the text file that I find, I would like to go ahead and return that. And then give me 1 second here. Just need to check. Between this. Cool. So biz ID, all of the response here of the very first item, which is 0. If I change this to 1, I'll then expect to see the next return result here. So a Pisa Shoals, let's jump back out of Pisa Shoals. So it's a 0-based index here within the return results. So if I change this now to 2, it moves on to the next one, the next one, the next one. So I have all of this rich information that Web.Browser.Contents was unable to find or even present it to me as an option. I need to turn this back into a JSON though. So I have returned a little, or kind of removed a little bit of information here with the text out between delimiters. So I want to add that back now. So I'm going to say text.combine. The first item here within my text list is going to be, well, let's bring back kind of a biz ID. Awesome. My next text is obviously the return values here. And then at the very end, I just want to go ahead and close that out then. Cool. I have one extra. There we go. Copy this, paste it over into VS Code, and then this is a JSON file. So if we format this now, oh my gosh, a JSON body response. It has that 4.5 that I was looking for. It has the 799. It has the actual URL of the page that I'm looking for too. That Power Query in the Web.Browser.Contents couldn't find. So ha ha ha. I showed you photos, all this information here, just out in that plain text on the web page. There's 10 of these though. I need to find a way to kind of iterate and return and do this operation 10 different times because I can't come out here and just manually type it. It would take way too long. So first item here, of course, this is now a JSON.document. So there's the JSON response here. So it's now a key value pair within Power Query. So this is now returned as a record set. Turning it into a function. That's going to be the next here on my list then. So let's zoom into the advanced editor here now. So here, HTML, let me just call this page text. I'm close on my original. There's my page text. I do want to turn this now into a function. So fxBuild JSON. I need to have an iterator because I need to have that number turn from 0 to 1 to 2. So I'm going to have that as a number. And then my goes to symbol here. If you're not familiar with writing custom functions, come hang out with me tomorrow, kind of at the Power BI YouTube channel. We'll be diving into that. I want to pass that through now. Here with my iterator value, I pass in 0, it'll fill in 0. If I pass in 1, it'll fill in 2 here for my JSON.document. So if I go back here now, press 0, invoke, there we go, press 1, invoke, cool. Cool. Hit delete. I need to think about this because I've got a function now, and I need to start thinking about how do I iterate through in passing in these values, because I can't obviously sit here and type the keyboard either to hit invoke every time. So I need to store this somewhere first. So I'd like to store this in kind of a record. So this is going to be just a structured value. So I'm going to say this is my JSON response. First value is going to be my iterator. So I'm going to start with 0 just as my base index because I know that aligns with the page. And then I want to start my JSON body, which is going to call the fxBuild JSON function and then passing in the iterator value. Copy this, jump back into kind of a let statement here, format document. Got a function, line number 4. I'm going to call my key value pair value here. So I'm going to call this value within the response. It's going to be 0. Just keep that in mind. This will be our JSON response now. So I'm going to jump back in, paste it here. Loving all the active chat. And then this one is going to be our JSON response. Cool. So iterator 0, JSON body. That was our record that's returned here at the very bottom. Change the record to 1. We have new records here. Change it to 2, change it to 3. Awesome. So we're putting the pieces together now. If you're not familiar with iterators, so for each loops, do loop, do until, do while. We want to generate a list here within Power Query. The way in which to do that is going to be through the List.Generate function. So List.Generate. Of course, List.List. But if you just type in a function name out in Power Query and don't include the open close parentheses, it will return the entire documentation for you. So you don't need to go out and look at the web page if you don't want. But this generates a list of values given the 4 functions, kind of an initial, a test or exit condition. So if this thing is false or if it's true, continue or exit kind of our loop. But then at the next, like what is the next value that you would like to generate? Let me pause here before we continue, though. Any questions as it relates to kind of the earlier text here with the custom function, this record set we're starting to build out? Then, Greg, keep me honest here with however the chat's moving.
Everybody's just loving it.
All right. This is cool. All right, cool. Everyone's enjoying it. So let's continue then with the List.Generate.
Chewy's got some great GIFs coming.
Alex, this is Kirill. I have a question.
Yeah,
Can you go back to Visual Studio Code? How do you force the like that file that you're creating to to have the library run from the M code?
Yeah. So bottom right hand corner is your language selector.
Okay.
And then you'll be able to also kind of do that through the shortcut keys, like change language.
Oh,
so,
okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Yep. Then with that format, so for those who aren't familiar, built-in IntelliSense, built-in code formatting for your Power Query M over here. I absolutely love it, just in terms of like hovering above, and I can see the variable values. It's like in this example, if I hover above JSONResponse, it's an iterator with a 0 value, and JSON body is any data type. But a lot of fun.
Which one do you use for DAX?
For DAX, I mean, I think that, or I hope that everyone's response would be like DAX Studio in terms of like a default development environment.
Right, but I mean, like, if you wanted to like write some DAX code in here to check, because I think there is an attachment or the what's it called, the yeah, one of those languages you can install here too for the VS Code for DAX as
Interesting.
well.
I don't know that I've seen that one yet. I'd be curious if they aren't just running like notebooks or PowerShell to execute commands.
Yeah,
unless it's more like a DAX formatter.
It's not a Microsoft thing, but it's just if you type in DAX or Power BI, that's what I use for now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
I'll take a look then on the extensions.
Sorry, carry on.
No, I love it. This is why I like nerding out too. It's like, well, what does the deep end look like, and what is everyone else using? So, so with this, we have our initial record here. We need to start iterating this and generating a list. So let's talk this through. So we want to get results.
One quick question, Alex.
Yep.
Duran mentioned, can you get that doc info for your own functions?
Yes. Big time. And I'll be covering that tomorrow, kind of during the official Power BI thing. But if you couldn't wait tonight, because once again, I want you to be selfish, PBI workshops, and of course, my GitHub. Hopefully they trust me to be me. PBI workshops. There we go. Out here, Power Query custom functions. I go over how to document your own custom functions. So I'll drop this in the chat, but this goes over the entire metadata. And I'll be doing it live tomorrow, kind of with the Power BI YouTube channel. Cool. Awesome. So that one, List.Generate, it's my favorite. So let's jump into it. So get results. I need to have a starting point here. So List.Generate. Initial is going to be my function. The next is my condition. Next is the kind of the next function that I would like to kind of do here. So I'm starting with the goes to symbol. So that is the double parentheses, and then the kind of the equals, and then the greater than sign here. So I'd like to start with my JSON response. So the item that I have right above here, because of case sensitivity, there we go. So remember here within VS Code, if I hover above this value, I can see exactly what it is, what it returns. My next condition now is going to be my exit. So when do I exit this page? Jump back over to Yelp. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So on every page, it's displaying 10 values. My exit condition here is going to be for each, because within each item within this list, so my each loop, anytime that the iterator value here within my record set is less than 10. So I'm going to continue this loop until it hits that condition that I'm saying exit. Just get out of here. There's nothing left on the page. So we'll keep that in mind here with that exit. What would I like to do here now with the kind of the next value in line? Well, I'd like to just reuse this pattern, to be honest with you, this JSON response. And then the item that I would like to do is I want to take the current value of the iterator. I can type. I want to add 1 to it. line 30. So currently starting out as 0. I'm adding 1. The next time it goes through, it's going to check and say, well, each iterator value, which is now 1, is it less than 10? If so, then yes, you can proceed. Move on to the next item here within the list.generate. 1 plus 1 equals 2. 2 is less than 10. 2 plus 1 equals 3. 3 is less than 10. So on, so on, so on, so on, and so forth. List.generate. If you're not using it today, my goodness, take a look into it. It is just fantastic in terms of the possibilities and potential that you can do with iteration. For my professional developers in the audience, if you're thinking about, calling the web APIs and they have a next page response, just add a record value here, obviously to your thing to say, next page equals, maybe you're getting it from, record next page value. And then just have that be something that you're storing within a record, storing within a table, storing within a list, whatever the value may be. I like key value pairs. That's why I stick with the records. But it's up to you at that point. But that's how I would approach kind of doing the API development, is use the list.generate, having that next page or that API key that you can store and pass along. I'll pause here for anyone that is doing active development on APIs, because I know that was a conversation we had earlier. Anything that I should expand on in that realm for you? Or hopefully you're good.
Feel free to come off mute.
So pagination, how many pages?
I mean, yeah, so in this example, I'm doing up to 10, but I've got somewhere the exit condition is whenever a table.is empty. So let it go into infinity and beyond until I finally get that response.
Nice. So you had 10. When you looked at the HTML page, there was 10 per page, but then you need to tell it to jump to the next page.
You got it.
That's what your function is going to do.
You got it. And I love that you brought up the pages here. So let's break down an item here that we'll have to tackle after this one is going to be, well, how do I get to the next page, the next page, the next page? We do see that here with the query start equals 10. If we were to select page number 3, start equals 20. There's our pattern, right? 10 times 1, 10 times 2. It's 10 per page. So as long as we keep iterating on that 10, 20, 30, 40, we can move and do the entire Yelp website if we wanted to. It's all right in front of us.
Nice.
Right. Cool. So let me jump back over here. Let's make sure that this does work here for us, though. So we'll paste this now into our Power Query editor. We've got our list.generate. We've got our initial JSON response. Press done. And probably help if I actually fix the right line 35. That's done. Oh, what is my error here? What is it yelling at me about? What did I change? Hopefully nothing. Oh, probably help if I actually called the key. Give me 1 second here. There we go. 10 values, 10 returns. Obviously, we could create something more sophisticated if the page is ID, which is that unique identifier. Transform our tables here. Yes, just give me the list. I have my iterator value, and I have my JSON body here. So my first item 0, second item 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But my goodness, this JSON body, are you ready? Look at all of these fields. Look at all these records. Look at all these things that Power Query and that confounded web.browser contents just couldn't find for me. All of this information available to me. The URLs that I couldn't recognize on the page. The neighborhoods, all these different values that Power Query just wasn't even finding through that AI.
Wow. It's kind of clean.
Yeah. And obviously we could do something to expand all of these at the same rate too, but hundreds of fields that would have never been detected. Or we could have went through and we could have found every CSS class identifier and hoped that we got close here with some of the wildcard values. Or we could just read the original text on the page. Start looking for those patterns. In this example, there was a biz ID that I recognized that says, if you concentrate on that biz ID and you find the complete JSON structure, you could then build out that response. So here in this example, our biz ID, which is that unique identifier of that restaurant within Yelp's, behind the scenes, their database and all the things that they are kind of doing to build the page, but getting those results, iterating through, converting it, expanding, grabbing the data that you absolutely need.
So if the API supported some other, like say a filter, you could add that to.
You got it.
To get,
yep.
To get your response to be filtered.
Yep. So because we built this in such a way that we want to be flexible with anything that we want to do in the future, let's talk about that original step. So here, if we remember Web.Contents, I have these optional record values. So I have query, and I also have relative path. So if you're doing something dynamic and that path changes within your web address here, so when I jump out here, so those dynamic data sources, if this path here some way, shape or form changed in the path of the directory, use that argument. What we're going to do is concentrate on the query parameters here. So I'll bring this over into VS Code. Let's do a new item here. Awesome. Ooh, a little too big. Relative path that I would like to find is based on the search. Anywhere where you see the question mark, that is when you've now moved into the query parameters within the address. So if you were to do google.com question mark, then you could search for cats, or you could do whatever it is you want. So that is our query items here. So record values, this is our key value pairs. So pizza, our second argument here is just the ampersand value. So find location equals Portland. %2C is just the conversion. And then our start value here would be another one, like thinking about the page. So let's take this and let's build on our original value where we just said, well, we'll start with the copy and paste of the address. Jumping out now. Paste this into our let statement. Get rid of this here just for the reveal. Awesome. So Web.Contents is Yelp. Optional values here. So I'm going to do a square bracket because it's a nullable record. I have to create or pass in a record set here. First item is going to be my relative path equals. It's going to be search. And you're saying, Alex, you're not including a backslash here. You don't need to. This would be similar to you doing a kind of a relative path on your workstation. So in this example, I'm in my downloads directory. If I was to do CD, actually, let me see what is out here. I do CD /. All right, so directory. So C users Alex M. Here are all the directories that are listed. If I was to do CD /, this is now starting from the relative path that I'm in. Where would I like to go? I'll go into, I don't know, favorite music, just because I don't know, nothing is out there. But my starting path, that which is relative to it, don't include the backslash. To me, it's not needed. So let me do comma here. The other value that I'd like to start with and pass in is going to be my query values. Web.Contents, programmatically add query parameters to the URL without having to worry about escaping. All right, that's awesome. Here at the very top, we remembered that we have these query parameters. So anything that is after the question mark is the values that we'd like to change and pass through. So my find description is my name. The value that I'm passing through is going to be text. So it's pizza, comma. Next one is going to be my find location, which is Portland.
Real quick, Alex,
Yeah.
Simi was asking if you could go over the paging. She didn't quite catch that part.
Oh. So from paging, it's going to be each response here of kind of the Yelp page. They're only returning 10 values at a time. So something we'd like to do is recognize, well, what changes in our URL? So one of those values is that was now added to it, which wasn't there originally on page 1. It's going to be start equals, and then it's going to be the offset. So if I move to page number 2, the one thing that we see here change is going to now be start equals 10. If I move to page number 3, it's going to be start equals 20. Page number 4 is going to be 30, 40, 50, so on and so forth. That is the pattern which we've now recognized.
Awesome. We got 2 more questions for you.
Yeah.
And then Darren, I see you got your video on. You were just asking, web browser contents will parse the URL parameters, correct?
The URL parameters, define that for me if you don't mind.
Actually, I think what I meant is I was trying to respond to Chewy's statement or chat, about the why did you use web browser contents? And I assumed it was because you could then specify all the parameters that you wanted.
You got it. Yeah. So web.browser contents kind of being that default in Power BI Desktop. I don't have a lot of flexibility over here. So I don't have like the relative path for dynamic data source changes from the URL string, like sending queries. I could even do return or manual status handling. So if I get a 404 response, I could capture some of those within my query results. Like you don't have that flexibility with browser contents. Awesome. Cool. So we've got our original URL, which looks just like this. Let me paste it over here. So exact same thing, but now we made it way more dynamic in terms of changing our values, Power Query respecting those two and not throwing an error. So like here, refreshing a dynamic data source. If we were trying to manually build it ourselves, and if you're not familiar with this, what this may look like if we were to say, well, I want it to be this, and I'm going to pass through pizza as its own thing, and I'm going to ampersand here, and I'll just pass that through. That's dynamic. Our query in the schedule refresh in the web service will say, I'm sorry, I can't do it. I don't know. You may inject a value at some point in time in the future. That may be, against terms of service or DDoS or I don't know, whatever they're thinking there, but you can't do it that way. It has to be done with these optional parameters like the query or even kind of using the relative path. And you may see that a lot if you're kind of out in Chris Webb's blog post, but he talks about this quite a bit. Cool. So we've got some more dynamic things here now added. I'm going to paste that in here now. So what did I throw off a little bit? Oh, it's text. Well, that's why. I have as text. Whew. Same thing, same response, JSON, get results, expand, iterators, all of our columns, all of our values. We looked at pizza. What other food should I check out when I'm in Portland? What type of food?
Ooh.
Beer.
Beer?
Yeah, beer.
Let's do it. All right, so we're going to change just one value here, which is our find description. It's now going to be beer. Let's see what we got here. Deschutes, 10 barrel Pine Street beer o'clock.
Hey,
My
quick
goodness.
question. Amon, just to totally confirm, I don't want to say it wrong, but when you got that doc for an M function to show up in the editor, that was VS extension and not Power Query, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Awesome. So with this, it's now flexible. We could turn this into a complete list of values that we pass through. Maybe we've got 10 different foods that we'd like to iterate through. Maybe it's every food and every drink that's ever been imagined. Any city, of course, with our page number, our start value, we want to create just a whole nother loop with List.Generate. So then we could generate and iterate from one list to the next. So when we get into nesting of iterator loops, obviously that's where all the fun happens. But this is flexible now. I'll pause here. Any questions from folks?
That's awesome. I like how the VS Code extension is just tracking all your errors if you're like off a column or sorry, off a paren or whatever.
Yep. It's pretty cool too, where it'll throw errors being like, hey, I can't format this because your code's all wrong. It's like, it's perfect.
Awesome. I like how you add the comments and like what you're doing for your future self, right?
Yep. And I'll leave all the code here behind for folks to kind of play with too. If you've just not done a lot with List.Generate, for me, it's the one that unlocks a lot of the potential here. But really the true test is, can we actually get it up into the Power BI service? We know Web.Browser.Contents. I'm sorry, it just doesn't work, but do data flow. Would I like to create a data bar? No, let me create a data flow, but that's a cool new prompt. So think about that next time you're out here.
What did Matt Roche call it? It's data flow with benefits?
Yeah, I think that's what he was saying online. I was like, that's pretty funny. All right, cool. So we're out in the Power Query experience online. So Power Query Online is just my absolute favorite. If we remember things here, like the Web.Browser.Contents, this is the default experience. Hopefully everyone here is like, I'll never touch that thing ever again. I'm going to go out into and do my favorite trick of them all, copy, paste, which doesn't work. It's Control V. I don't understand that behavior, but I always laugh at it. Look at that. The module named Web Browser Contents has been disabled. Even if you wanted to, you could not use it up in Power Query Online. It's the default when you open the desktop. So if you're putting in all of that hard work, and you're doing all these things, you can't even get it to work in a data flow. You have to use a Power BI personal or Power BI standard data gateway. You can see here why I'm just providing this massive caution disclaimer that you should look into Web.Contents. So we know this doesn't work. Let's try our solution here then. So we'll do copy, then we'll do paste. Of course, Control V. Configure connection. I'm going to do an anonymous. Cool. Delete, remove duplicates real quick. So, and then let's just save a few of these columns here, remove other columns, do a quick transform detect data type. We'll do delete, get out of here. You know, that won't work. Please refresh. Save and close. Validated. Yelp. I think only Yahoo had the exclamation. Awesome. So we've actually been able to bring our M that we designed locally, paste it into Power Query Online, and now it is the true test. Will it actually refresh? So Power Query, I have my Yelp, I press refresh here. No data gateway, keep that in mind. It's done. Completed, 2 seconds. 2 seconds, one page. I could go through 100 pages. We'd probably be done in less than a few minutes. How long do you need to have the solution up and running? How much data volume will you eventually have these are now the consideration points where I would start telling you this could be scalable for you. I am using these exact same patterns to go out and web scrape the Power BI Ideas website, and that probably has, I don't know, 700 pages. I don't even know, 5,000 plus ideas, 38,000 votes, whatever the numbers are. It takes me like 30 minutes, and all of that is being done while I'm in bed. I'm asleep. I'm not worrying about it. Could it be faster in something like Python? Or could it be something, with the beautiful soup package? Maybe. But what did I tell you at the beginning? I want to power query everything. So with that, I do want to thank everyone here for your time and hanging out here. I will pause though for any questions here before we kind of move into some after hours.
Do the magic fingers. Can we all come off pause and come off mute and give an applause for Alex? Thank you so much for teaching us all about shaping how we can use Power Query.
And I'm seeing here in the chat, can they be parameterized with the query values? Absolutely. That's what's so great. Change it. It doesn't have to be beer today and sandwiches tomorrow and pizza. Have that be dynamic. Have your end users source it to them. A lot of this for me, and the excitement that comes with it, is purely going to be kind of based on the PBI release plan public. And I'll talk about this a little bit more tomorrow too, but everything that we're doing and everything we're building here, it should be scalable, right? So Power Query, personal query gallery. So this is one of those coming soon on the roadmap. This is where you can start storing your Power Query queries up in the service and you can start reusing them. So everything that we just did today, tomorrow it is a Yelp query that any user in your organization can go out and use, put in whatever value they want in whatever city they want and grab all the data that they need. It could be another website, maybe it's Yellow Pages, whatever information guide. This is what I'm excited about, reusing our logic. Like, this is so cool to me. But all right, let me stop presenting here. I'll kind of take a look back at the screen. Any other questions, Greg? I know we kind of did the freight train experience here, like always.
Is Power Query able to log in for various websites? I tried before and got authenticator issues.
It can with the post requests. So you'd be able to do a post. I think you'll have some issues though if you're like waiting, like especially if it's like a JavaScript based website. Like, I struggle with those sometimes.
Yeah, I'll jump in here, Dan with CSG. We're building a custom connector on, for SkyPoint Cloud, and the fundamentals of building that connector track right with what you're doing with that List.Generate. We're crawling, we're hitting our web API, and related to the question about can you log in, our connector, you have to authenticate certain web API URLs, and you literally say, hey, show a login prompt, get the token from the authentication system. So we're getting into more advanced territory.
Yes.
But you can get a login detail, and then as Alex mentioned with post, you can then take that, usually a token, you post that, and now you're getting details from logging in. Of course, I bet more terms of service start to apply when you're using a service like that, but that's for your lawyers.
Yes. Another question we got is, can the search query variables be parameterized?
Yes.
We already mentioned that? That's right.
And then someone asked about recursive logic. My goodness, yes, you can do recursion with Power Query. At the end of the day, if you've never done programming, find your exit. Otherwise, you could just be stuck in a recursive loop forever. So,
I think you can define. Gotcha. Yeah. Any other questions? Feel free to come off mute. Pick Alex's brain while we've got him.
Alex, hi. This is Amin, and thank you, Greg, for what you put out. Alex, thank you for what you did tonight. This is terrific. I was aware and had used lightly List.Generate. I didn't realize it had that much power, like expressive power. And I mean, I guess could you do the same thing with like list.transform? You generate the numbers if you know how many list.transform, and then list.combine them and put it together. But is that fundamentally less powerful than what you could do with list.generate?
No, I mean, I think list.generate is great when you're like doing the repeated patterns, but like in some scenarios, like if it's just a list.transform and I'm going to transform each item within an existing list, like I'm not going to run to list.generate. It feels like overkill for me. At least from like MK and kind of Miguel and others, like this is one of those performance benefits of like using list.generate, where like it does scale. It can do some pretty incredible things with large amounts of volume of data, but I mean, each scenario is different. Hopefully in your examples though, list.generate is the very last solution, hopefully not the first. Just I understand that this is more on kind of the deeper end of the pool. And I'm gonna try and share something here, which is like my favorites. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Greg, keep going. I'm trying to find a book from Gil.
No new questions. I mean, I can just sit here and just say how amazing we think you are. I mean, you put the cat in Power BI cat. You put the apple in pineapple.
Here we go. All right, let me share one last thing here within the Teams. Plus, present Teams. Yes. So you can tell these are some old days when I could actually go into an office.
The office. Are they ever going to open again? Did they sell them all?
No, they are opened. Man, is that thing that blurry on your side?
Oh, it's not terribly blurry, no.
Oh, it's
Really?
not bad.
All right. On my side, it looks awful. So I absolutely love this chart from Gil Review's book, where he talks about like how far you can go with Power Query and the M experience. For me, like I love the language because it's both data prep and it's functional programming, and I could do anything, and I want to Power Query everything. You can see where that passion, that statement now comes to life with. But you could probably do, 80% of Power Query things solely through the UI, solely through just add new custom column to your tables. Like, I hope nobody ever has to move to the advanced editor if they don't want to. But if you're like me, if you're technically curious, if you start looking at the things like List.Generate, which we talked about tonight, that will get you to 99% of solutions that you could go out and tackle and do anything with this language. Of course, the advanced editor, which we were in a lot tonight. So thank you for those who are like, I don't do a lot in the advanced editor. You also see how I leverage VS Code for a more complete developer experience. We could tackle 99.99% of problems. You're not that far off from using the UI and then maybe just finding a project like with one we did tonight with Yelp. Figure out how you can incorporate List.Generate into your back pocket. And my goodness, you could take on the world. You could do anything here with kind of this language in your data. And then speak with your lawyer too before you do anything with your data. I gave my disclaimer at the very beginning, just to CYA myself. So
most websites will call out if like it's a breach of terms of use to scrape their website. Like I know, for instance, ticket websites, the SeatGeeks and Ticketmasters of the world, they catch you scraping their website, they will find you. Well, again, if you guys don't mind, let's just give Alex another round of applause. Magic fingers, whatever you want to do. But thank you so much, Alex, for visiting us again here in good old weird Portland. We're huge fans of you. I'm a huge fan. So everybody, if you haven't given Alex a follow, whether it's on Twitter or LinkedIn, you totally should. Let's empower the community. I mean, that's one thing we really want to make this a stage for those that maybe have not presented before or want to. Maybe it's your path to becoming an MVP one day. So don't be bashful. Even if it's a very quick session, you want to do like a 15-minute session, we can buddy you up with maybe a more expert speaker. We would love to help, just get everybody more comfortable presenting with Power BI. And with that, thank you all.